Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
The Calgary Stampede isn't just the greatest outdoor show on earth, it's also one of the biggest political stages in the country. Every July, you'll see politicians flocking to Calgary, from flipping pancakes to walking the rodeo grounds. This year is no different. Prime Minister Mark Carney is here. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is making the rounds. Ontario Premier Doug Ford even signed a new deal with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith to boost provincial cooperation and trade.
Ontario and Alberta are working together to build new energy and trade infrastructure, including pipelines and rail lines, so we can unlock the full potential of Canada's economy by diversifying our trading partners.
We'll focus on supporting industry efforts to build oil and gas pipelines and refining, processing, and supply chains for energy and critical minerals between Alberta and Ontario.
But why is the Calgary Stampede so important for them to show up? I'm Mark Day, and in this episode of The Big Story, CityNews reporter Sean Amato covers Alberta politics, and he joins me to break down why the Stampede has become a must-attend event for politicians, what it really says about their connection to Alberta, and how it plays out into their strategy across Canada. Well, thanks for joining us, Sean. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the Stampede just isn't about Midway's rides and mini donuts. It's also prime time for politics. Why has the Calgary Stampede become such an essential stop for politicians of all levels in Canada?
I think it's just because everybody's there. I mean, as an Albertan, been watching it for years and years. You know, obviously people are familiar with the classic video of politicians flipping pancakes and that sort of thing. But as a political watcher, an avid political watcher, and somebody that works in it, I'm always interested to see the photos that come out of Stampede, to see the different consultant groups and the different sort of businesses and private sector parties that are held. And you know, you get a wide shot of some of those photos and you can start to piece together the amount of faces that you recognize. You'll see a mayor, you'll see a city councilor, you'll see a town councilor from rural Alberta that you'll see political consultants, you'll see communications professionals. A lot of people go to Calgary because this week or these 2 weeks, that's the place to be.
It certainly is, and a great opportunity as well to get some work done. The premiers of Alberta and Ontario have signed a new agreement to support new rail and pipelines to export oil, gas, and critical minerals. So it's an opportunity to get the work done and also a great platform to make these types of announcements.
Yeah, it is. And that's always the question. That's always the challenge as a journalist is how do you take that beyond the pancakes and the handshakes to, okay, what are they actually talking about? What are they actually getting done? How much of this is, being there and being seen versus how much work is actually being done on behalf of Canadians, Albertans? I've seen some mayoral candidates from Edmonton there. What exactly are they doing? Are they lining up staff for their campaigns? Are they actually inking agreements? And in the case of Danielle Smith and Premier Doug Ford, we saw an actual agreement going on. There's some debate about a memorandum of understanding. What does that actually mean? What will that actually lead to? How much of that is, basically a handshake on paper to say we like each other, we think along the same lines, versus when and if pipelines are actually going to go into the ground. But they were talking about a lot that I think would be of interest to Canadians, Albertans in particular, about how does Alberta get some pipelines going east-west? How do they access tidewater ports? The talk was about one at James Bay on the Hudson Bay, the Ontario portion of that. And the Premier, Danielle Smith, was talking about, how do we get some pipelines there? How do we also get some rail lines there? So it's not just oil and gas moving. We can also get some, agriculture products and that sort of thing. And that on the flip side of that, it's Alberta is talking about making sure that any vehicles they buy are coming from Ontario. How do they get more Alberta alcohol into Ontario? How do they make sure that the pipelines and the rail lines that are being built out of Alberta are using Ontario steel? So there is some debate among people who watch this about how much impact that will actually have on the economy. But I did speak to an economist today who said, yes, there's a certain amount of political theater that happens with these things, but interprovincial trade barriers are a real thing. And the fact that, Donald Trump has spurred Canadians to take a hard look at this is a good thing for Canadians. It's a good thing for creating a robust economy.
And it's not just provincial leaders, federal leaders who come to Calgary for Stampede, municipal leaders as well. Lots of different mayors from other cities across the country will come to the Stampede and get an opportunity to sit down and meet with leaders here. In fact, from the municipal level, the Calgary mayor, Jody Gondek, had a chance to have some one-on-one time with Prime Minister Mark Carney on Friday. She championed the city's role in building a stronger Canadian economy, focusing on some shared priorities: Prairie Economic Gateway as the nation's strongest inland port, interprovincial trade, energy sovereignty. So it's even a great opportunity for all levels of government, including those local politicians, to connect.
Yeah, I think so. And as I mentioned, I've seen some Edmonton mayoral candidates in the crowd, that sort of thing. Obviously, there are the things that they do that everybody sees, but in order to run a mayoral campaign or even a councillor campaign, you have to have staff. You have to have a campaign manager. You have to have a volunteer coordinator. You have to have connections. So some of this stuff is a little inside baseball, as they say, for political watchers or journalists. But it is interesting to see that sort of web of different people and where they go and who they're talking to. And yeah, I mean, avid political watchers are certainly interested in that stuff as well.
It's interesting this day and age with social media. You would think that maybe Shania Twain would be the big story of the day, being the parade marshal here in Calgary for the Stampede. But on X, it was all about pancake flipping. And there was, videos of Mark Carney flipping pancakes, Premier Danielle Smith, Pierre Poilievre, and lots of people commenting on just how good they are at pancake flipping. It's all part of the image for a politician, but it definitely shows you as a real person, whether you're good at pancake flipping or not.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, from my perspective, do I really care whether he can flip a pancake or not? I mean, we're not hiring someone to work on the Denny's line here. We're talking about somebody. Can he run an economy? Can he run a government? I think the jury's still out on that. We're going to see. And Danielle Smith mentioned that. I mean, there's been all this talk since Mark Carney has come in about nation-building projects, about removing trade barriers, about really throwing fuel on the Canadian economy. And she said, talk is cheap. We've been talking about it for months now since Mark Carney won the leadership of the Liberal Party and then he won the election. Now it's like, okay, we've been talking about this for a long time, but she said at some point the rubber needs to hit the road and we need to start actually talking about actual projects, which pipelines are going to go forward, which energy corridors are going to be built, that sort of thing. And the Premier did say, by fall, she expects to have, a lot more detail on what that's going to look like. And I know a lot of people across Canada, even people who aren't avid political watchers, want to see what's going to happen there because people need jobs, people need paychecks, and those things are going to be important going forward for all Canadians.
A lot of political consultants will talk about, just how important it is for them to attend pancake breakfasts, a ride in the parade. It helps politicians connect with the people on a grassroots level. Trudeau didn't attend last year. He did attend a few stampedes over time. His approval ratings weren't very high last year in Alberta. Mark Carney, he's from Edmonton. He grew up here in Alberta. No surprise that he attended his first one. But do you think there is a risk for politicians if they don't attend the Stampede?
Yeah, I think so. In particular for Mark Carney. I mean, I was at his launch for his leadership of the Liberal campaign, and he made a point to say, I'm from Alberta. I'm from Edmonton. He held his press conference at the community league he used to play hockey with when he was a kid. So we all know that, Mark Carney spent the early part of his life in the Northwest Territories. He went to high school in Edmonton, and then he went abroad. He lived all over the world. He attended different universities, and Harvard and Oxford. So does he really have strong Alberta roots? That's certainly up for debate. But he's made a point, his campaign staff have made a point all along to say, yes, I'm from Alberta. I'm a hockey player just like you. I went down, he went to high school down the street from where I live right now and down the street from where he held that campaign launch. So, yeah, I think it's really important for Mark Carney. We saw in the election, what did he win? 2 seats in Alberta. There's some debate there, I guess you could say, about do Albertans really care where he's from? Because a lot of them are not voting for him anyway. But I do think, to create a story of who is Mark Carney, what does he stand for, who is he going to represent? It is important for him to establish himself and say, yes, I'm an Albertan. Yes, I'm an Edmontonian. And going to the Calgary Stampede, I think, is a big part of that.
He doesn't have a seat in the House yet. He did have a seat on a horse in the Stampede parade on Friday. Pierre Poilievre, he is running in a by-election to try and regain a seat in the House of Commons. He's leader of the Conservatives. Very important for him to be here. He hasn't missed a Stampede. I mean, he grew up in Calgary, so it's coming home for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's his bread and butter, right? I mean, Western Conservatives, he has to show up as much as anybody, particularly right now where he doesn't have a seat. He needs to keep up appearances. He needs to show everybody that he is, a person who's still in charge. He is still a person that has his finger on the pulse, and he wants to show people that he is a prime minister in waiting. So yeah, I think it's really important for him to be there and to show that he's not distraught because he lost his seat, that this is merely a speed bump on his way to becoming the next prime minister. So being at Calgary Stampede, spending time with Conservatives, with Western people, wearing that hat, the cowboy hat that he has to wear, that everybody has to wear. I think it's really important for him at this time. I would agree with you that I think it's just a matter of time before he gets his seat and gets back in there. But his is a bit of a homecoming as well to Alberta to say, I want to be an MP and I want to represent Albertans.
Do you think voters care about what politicians are doing at the Stampede, or do you think it's mostly just for media optics?
Yeah, it's a good question. I do think it matters. I mean, for some reason, people want to talk about Carney's pancake flip, and me personally, I couldn't really care. But I was talking to some people today, and they say, those are the things that resonate with people. It's people are busy in their lives. They're trying to make ends meet. They got kids, they got work, they got all these things. Do they have time to sit and read these memorandums of understanding that were signed by Daniel Smith and Doug Ford? I think not, but they do have, 10 seconds to watch a pancake flip fail. Whether that actually translates into votes, I don't know, but these are moments that do contribute to a politician's legacy. And I think, maybe people in Ontario or Quebec don't really care that Justin Trudeau skipped the last Stampede. But I think people in Calgary kind of do.
We live in this day and age now where not just us as reporters are covering these events. Everyone has a camera, a video camera. In your view, does a Stampede remain as politically influential today, do you think, as it was 10 or 20 years ago?
Oh, yeah, I think it's as important as it's ever been. Back in the day, you would see a couple photos in the front page of the Herald or the Sun or these sorts of things. But now every second, is available for a viral moment. I think it is very important for politicians. I think they have to be careful because a lot of people will come up to them with a lot of different agendas, a lot of things to say. Everywhere they go, there's not just television cameras. There's also cell phones now everywhere they go. I think it is as important as it's ever been for politicians to show up, have a good showing. And as I've said, like, not just the public facing stuff, but it's also, I think, important for them to go and get stuff done behind the scenes, which is why we're seeing, municipal council candidates showing up and to these things and stuff. They're not necessarily holding press conferences. They don't necessarily have anything to announce. But this is the Calgary Stampede is where a lot of business gets done.
Well, thank you, Sean. I appreciate your time today and all of your political insight as well.
Thanks for having me.
Sean Amato is a CityNews reporter who covers politics in Alberta. That was the big story. You can send us feedback on this episode or any other episode by emailing us at hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca or leave a voicemail at 416-935-5935. You can find us on the Seeker app or on all of your favorite podcast players. Please rate, review, follow, and share. Thanks for listening.